This is Dr. Josh Wagner from drjoshwagner.com, and you are listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith. Enjoy.
Well done, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to vroom vroom veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Dr. Grace Lee, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going well, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. This is cool. This is probably one of my number one favorite things that I get to do on the podcast is talk to cool people that have a PhD in neuroscience. It's like your Buckaroo Banzai's twin sister or something. I know that's a really deep reference, and I don't expect you to know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so you are at careerrevisionist.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited over there in your business.
Right. So for me, this is more than just a business.
Okay.
It's a global mass movement, which I've called it Career Revisionist, which is the name of my movement. And it's a body of empowered individuals, professionals all around the world who will no longer accept the status quo because they recognize that the status quo is a dangerous place to be. And they want change. They want to change their career. They want their careers to fuel the life that they want. And so it's all about how do I do that and ensure that my career is future proof? Like in the job marketplace, there's so many changes that are happening at a faster and faster rate. So how do I ensure that I am future proof? And how do I achieve something that I call vocational confidence?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, where it doesn't matter what the economy is doing. It doesn't matter about how many job postings there are. It doesn't matter about, all of these things that are external to you that you don't have control over anyway. If you have vocational confidence, then you can reinvent yourself. You can build the life and the career that you want, and it's going to be fueled by having that confidence. That is what career revisionist means to me.
When you say all of that, I'm going to take a bit of a digression here. So I've got a friend who is a chemical engineer. Okay. So when you say chemical engineer, right, you think that guy's going to have a job all the time, right? Some duty titles just, okay, you get out of college with a chemical engineering. I think he's got a master's degree. He's going to have a job. He's always going to have a job, right? He's got vocational confidence just because of what he does and he's good at it. But not everybody has that, right? And that's sad. And so good on you. I remember having this conversation because we were both in between jobs at the same time, like in 2017.
Yes.
And I was like, he's like, I got to move my family again. So that means I got to go out and find a new job. And he's like, it's always fun and scary and stupid, but I already know that I'm going to get a job. It's just which one do I pick? That's the career, that's career confidence, right? Vocational confidence, And yeah, so he was like, he went to San Diego. He's like, this is a really great job, but San Diego, oh my God, it's too expensive, right? So he was just, that's what you get when you have that vocational confidence, right? That just you're in charge of what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're not at the whim of oh, please. You're not like a beggar at the door. Oh, I really need this job. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just a bad position, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe that you have to position yourself or you will be positioned.
Correct. And I think everybody misinterprets that that's not optional. Not everybody, but a large majority of people fall into that trap of just saying, I might not like this job, but I really need the money. Kind of, that's their position, right? And that's just a really weak position. So, okay. So this is Vroom Vroom Veer. We can't just talk about that kind of stuff all the time. We have to do the job of the show. And in Vroom Vroom Veer, that means we have to go back in time and talk about The young Grace Lee before she was a PhD. Whoa, did I just make a rhyme? So we're going to talk about some of your early childhood trauma. I want to open that story loop. And then you obviously had to overcome a lot of challenges to pursue your dream career. But let's start off light and just talk about, like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in so many different places.
Yeah, that's great. That's a perfect answer. So you were moving around a lot. So, okay. Talk a little bit about what your childhood experience was.
I was. So I was actually born in Canada. Yeah. And the reason why that, and there's actually a reason behind it.
Okay.
I was born in Canada because my parents wanted me to have a Canadian passport. They felt that it was the gateway to the world, that North America was the land of milk and honey, the riches,
sure,
compared to Hong Kong and China, right? So
okay.
Yeah. So my parents are born in different parts of China, but both of them grew up and went to school and everything in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So my ancestors go back to China and Hong Kong. And so when my parents, they had me in Vancouver, they took me back to Hong Kong.
Okay. So they got the passport.
Yeah, that's right. So they got the passport. And then shortly after that, I went back to Hong Kong, and I still have that passport of me as a baby.
That's great.
Yeah, I have a Canadian passport with me as a baby. You know how in an adult way they say, "Oh, what's your height? Oh, 5'6" or 5'4". What's your height?" Mine said 56 centimeters.
Wow. That's a keeper passport right there.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a keeper passport. Just to see how the Canadian passport has changed over the years, too.
Please scan that and put it on the internet so it's replicated a million times. You have to. Yes. Just click a pic, put it on Instagram. It'll be there forever.
It'll go viral, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. So, okay, that's kind of a fun story because was it like financially too difficult to swing Canada? They couldn't afford to live there? Oh, okay. You don't know. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't have an opportunity to find out.
Okay. That's probably has to do with some story that we're about to hear later on.
That's right.
Okay. So keep going. So, okay. You get the passport and then woof, you're back in Hong Kong. Continue.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. So I spent my primary years there, didn't speak English, didn't care to, didn't know about English at all. And life was just as usual, a typical Hong Kong family, small apartment.
Right.
Like that. Everything.
No
was
kitchen, right?
It was a small kitchen.
Tiny kitchen. Okay. Well, you had a kitchen.
Plate.
Woo, nice.
Yeah, burner plate.
Right.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I get it. But the food is so good. I mean,
it's so good.
Right. I mean, all the, what do they call it? Like the street food and the the people food, I guess, wherever you get it is amazing, right? So, but a lot of people don't have time and or space to cook food in their house. So maybe they're warming stuff up, right? But mostly they're eating on the run, right?
Actually, that was back then. Microwaves still were not in every home yet.
Okay. Wow. So a hot plate for real. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. A hot plate for real.
Okay.
And yeah, I like the term people food. That's interesting. So what's the other type of food? People food and...
Well, I meant just, it's not fancy.
I see what you mean.
Food of the people kind of thing. It's just like something that you're just walking by and there's like a little street cart, or maybe it's in a building, but it's sort of like what we would call a food court, but so much better food. It's the impression that I get. I've not been. My wife's been to Hong Kong, but I've not been. And whenever I see it on TV, it's usually like food porn TV. It's like it's like you're looking at really awesome looking noodles and all these crazy Chinese dishes, and I'm like, I want to go.
Yeah, those Asian food courts are special because the owners pour their heart and soul into their food.
Right. Yeah. It's not like the corporate version that we get.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no franchise. It's just what they got. It's everything they got.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what so, okay. Sorry, we digress in food porn. Great. Okay. So what was it like growing up what was your life like growing up in Hong Kong, and when did you move on? What was your first move?
It was typical. Every family's got a routine.
Right.
Yeah, you got a routine and you just have to live together in close proximity.
Sure.
Yeah. But of course, since I was a baby, I don't remember a lot of it.
Okay.
I just remember I have an older brother. I just remember walking with him to school, picking him up because I was too young to go to school yet.
Wow.
So I remember that.
Okay.
Like, earliest childhood memories. I remember the TV always on. That was a way that Chinese families like to raise kids.
Sure.
In front of the TV.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, in front of the TV. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember that.
Yeah.
TV always on, toys everywhere. Yeah, that's another way that, Chinese families like to raise kids. And there was no iPads back then.
No.
So we had TV, physical toys.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What are those, right?
Yeah, that's right. And people food.
And people food. Not dog food or cat food, but people food.
That's right. So it's interesting. I didn't grow up on canned food. I didn't grow up on instant noodles.
Right.
I didn't grow up on any of that stuff.
It was all really good food.
Yeah, it was all healthy, wholesome, hand-cooked food.
Right. Right.
So I grew up on that. I didn't grow up on McDonald's.
Right. Good for you. Lucky you. Yeah.
I craved it though.
Really? Did you see it on TV? Is that why? Yeah.
Of course, you see it on TV, and and then later on when we came to Canada, I saw other kids enjoying it, and I was like, why can't I enjoy that? But my mom didn't.
She knew it was garbage. So.
She knew. Yeah.
Well,
so
good for you.
Yeah,
you got lucky
very
there.
little.
Maybe. Maybe you could have had a cheeseburger here and there. One Happy Meal. Okay, that's it.
That was a treat. Whenever we did, it was a treat, and I just cherished it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. See, I there was a McDonald's like next to my what would we call it? Like a middle school or junior high school. Like, so that was sort of like the unofficial cafeteria of the 3 years of middle school was McDonald's. And they had like a special for all the school kids. It was like, you got like a small Coke, a cheeseburger, and small fries for like $1.16 or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty neat. Yeah, so I had a lot of McDonald's when I was in middle school. Anyway, okay. So, all right, you said you left Hong Kong then when you were still pretty young. How old were you when you left?
Yeah, 6. I was 6.
That's pretty young. That's like first grader.
That's right. If my memory serves me correctly, it was 6. And so we came to Canada. And yeah, at that time, I can't say everyone, but a lot of people were afraid of the 1997 handover.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. So it was going from British control to back to Chinese control.
Yes.
And that's where we're at now. And that's a whole thing. Okay.
It is a whole thing.
That's
exactly.
A whole thing. Yes.
But the date was set a long time ago and people knew about it. So whenever there was an opportunity, people were just looking for opportunities to come to North America.
Right.
North America was viewed as, oh, there's so much opportunity there.
The land of freedom and opportunity and money. And you're going to.
Exactly. So my parents were the same. Yeah. And a lot of their friends, a lot of my parents' friends moved to the US, different parts of the US. Some went to the other coast. So I'm in Vancouver right now. Some moved to the other coast in Toronto. But it was just the whole of Canada was either Toronto or Vancouver.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. And you can tell, like, when you were in Vancouver, you can definitely feel that cultural presence there.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm now living in what's called Little Hong Kong.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah. In Canada. In
so what part of Vancouver is Little Hong Kong? I don't know if I've ever been.
It's called Richmond.
Oh, okay. I want to say my wife had a girlfriend that lived in Richmond. We may have visited Richmond once, way back when.
Oh,
I know she did for sure.
Oh gosh, it's changed so much. It's changed so much. It's also where the international airport is.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. So that means I've been to Richmond many times. It just didn't stay very long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Nice. Okay. So that has got to be a giant culture shock for a 6-year-old.
It was all of a sudden there are other races that I've never seen before. And all of a
Right.
sudden I had to learn English. So that was a challenge. At first, I didn't want to.
Sure. Why would you want to?
I
Right.
didn't want
That
to.
seems like
And
work for a 6-year-old.
yeah, I didn't want to. I was like, why did I have to? But my mom was persistent. She took me to an English tutor and took me to a speech pathologist. And I learned how to pronounce English
Right.
the American way.
Yeah, you had to like retrain your tongue. I've been working on, my wife is from Japan. So I've been trying to get her to like act, so I now know how that like Japanese people and maybe I don't know the other Asian palate, right? A lot of your sounds don't use the now how do I describe it? When you sounds that involve putting the tip of your tongue at the top of your palate. If that makes any sort of sense, but she can't do it. I mean, if she like focuses and, you know, like with massive effort, she can do it. Yeah. But yeah, so I feel for your 6-year-old self because that was a lot of work to teach your tongue how to do that.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm really grateful for about that experience, that English was my second language, I'm really grateful because I studied English from a principle-based perspective.
Okay. Interesting. Explain.
That means that I didn't learn English from assimilation or from
You didn't
just
absorb it.
exactly. I had to physically study it, principles based, which means I know all the structures of a sentence. I know all the verb tenses. I can look at a sentence and break down the way that it's structured. I can break down the way the grammar is structured. And
Right.
right. And so because of those
that's kind of like the way I'm going through. Like if I want to, I'm studying Japanese just for something
Perfect.
to do. Yeah, and then I know exactly what computer nerds would call it the syntax, right?
Exactly. I know all the syntax.
That's right. Like okay, this is where this goes, and that's where this goes, and isn't it odd that they don't pluralize their nouns? You know,
Yeah,
and this goes there.
exactly.
And, right. Yeah. Okay.
I would recommend learning languages that way.
Right.
Through principles based. I totally recommend it that way. And when you start learning a language that way, then you can go into, okay, how do the normal population, how do they speak it? Of course, you
it's
kind
completely
of
different.
veer
You
off.
get
Yeah, you veer off the syntax and it makes sense, right?
Yeah. You kind of then understand what's going on. But you've got you know what it's supposed to be. I think you have to do that, even though a lot of times you want to skip over a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I think it's important to know, or otherwise you're just going to be like saying things that are stupid. Oh, I have a funny story to tell about that because I've spent a lot of time and absorbed a lot of Japanese, right? So, but when I was the first time I was in Japan, I was like 18 to 20. And, you know, most of the people that I was trying to hang out with were girls. Aha. So most of my Japanese sounds like I am a girl. If I'm not watching what's going on. Yeah, I know. So when I hang out with Japanese dudes, they look at me like, why are you speaking like a girl? I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to fix that. Anyway.
I'm thinking, Jeff, you need to build a YouTube channel on that.
It's like reverse nonsense. How to sound like a girl in Japanese.
Yes.
I got that covered.
You need a channel on that. You teaching Japanese from a female perspective.
No thanks. But it would be hilarious. Okay, so now you're 6 and you're in Canada and you're learning English. You've learned English, so okay, continue.
Okay, so learning English, principles based, I started to grasp it, started to learn it. And my parents decided to open a restaurant.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So then we initially immigrated to Vancouver.
Okay.
That was the country of choosing. We immigrated to Vancouver, but we didn't stay here.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't stay here. They decided to, and I don't know how it happened. I wish I could ask, but they happened to find a family-owned restaurant for sale in the rural provinces, the prairie provinces of Canada.
Okay. Is that far away from Vancouver or?
It is. It's a few provinces away.
Okay. Wow.
Central Canada.
Yikes.
Central Canada.
All right.
So we're talking Little House on the Prairies.
Wow.
I don't know if you understand that reference.
I do. I remember that show. I'm still trying to forget it. I never really liked it. It was one of those shows when it came out and I was like, no.
So this is countryside, but nothing like your countryside in the US.
Okay.
Nothing like the cow,
right.
This is prairie country.
So like very few roads. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Very few roads. Population is very so sparse. Like they're like your neighbor is a mile away kind of thing.
Right. No, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. And small towns, you driving 100 kilometers or 65 miles per hour and you blink, you might miss the town.
Sure. Right. They're lucky if they have a stoplight. Right.
Yeah. We moved there.
Yeah.
My town had one stoplight.
Wow. So no McDonald's for you.
There was a McDonald's in the next town. Okay. Not in my village, my village, but the town
100 kilometers away.
That's right. We had to drive about a half an hour to that McDonald's.
Okay.
High speed highways. That's how we got to the McDonald's. But that's right. So it was culture shock. Hong Kong is where I'm from.
Yeah.
Vancouver. Oh, there's a little less Asians. Now
right. But still, I mean, like you're saying city, and then no
village.
People. Yes. Like
no people.
Village, just like nothing but trees and.
Yeah. And my family, and basically my family was the cultural diversity.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little like scary, I think.
It was scary. And of course, my English wasn't good yet.
Okay.
My parents' English was definitely not good either.
Sure.
And here we were, got this restaurant, purchased it from a previous owner. We're still friends now. And we have a restaurant now. It's the monopoly. We have the monopolized Chinese restaurant, the only one within miles and miles and miles.
Okay.
So we had the monopoly.
Yeah. If somebody wants some dim sum, they got to come to you. They want some noodles, they got to come to you. Okay.
Exactly. There's no other choice.
Right.
So we were the only choice.
Right. Okay.
And that's not a marketing scheme either.
But it worked out. Did it work out? I don't know. Was it a good move?
It worked out as long as my mom was there running it. It worked out very well.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
She was a hard worker. She was clever. She was just such a people person.
Okay.
Yeah, she attracted customers from neighboring towns and neighboring cities. It was amazing, phenomenal. They heard about her. They wanted to come and see, who is this woman who owns a Chinese restaurant and the food is good. And my mom she just managed the whole thing.
I got it. So it was kind of like one of those Hong Kong restaurants, but in the middle of Little House on the Prairie.
You got it.
That's pretty cool, actually.
So we brought the culture. We brought the food. People were curious.
Now, let me ask you this. Usually, I kind of try to avoid Chinese food when I'm in a rural setting, just because I've not found it good. It's too Americanized. Everything's sweet and goopy with too much coating, and I
can relate to that.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know.
It's not actually Chinese food. It's just like, I don't know what it is, but it's not good. But it sounds like yours was like authentic. It was probably tweaked a little bit for the Canadian palate there, but
of course,
it had to be, right? But still authentic still.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of things that we could not have on the menu.
Of course. I mean, you could say that about every Chinese restaurant in America though, right? There's two menus, right? There's like the American, Canadian, North American version of Chinese food. And then there's the stuff that Chinese people want to eat.
We didn't have a need for that second menu.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that was your own food, right?
That's right.
That was for you guys. Yeah. We are not going to eat that crap. That's what. Okay. I get the picture. Okay. That's fun.
So there I was immersed in this culture, no choice. And my brother and I had to start going to school in that town. And we were the cultural diversity in each of our classrooms.
Yikes. That's a little scary. You were the little Hong Kongese people in the prairie.
Yeah,
wow.
That's right. I got picked on Yeah, I got
Of
picked
course you
on.
did.
Yeah, I got teased.
That's dramatic.
All the remarks, they were all directed at me. I got that.
Ouch. So
Yeah.
that's got to be rough.
It was rough, but as a little child, I didn't understand why.
Okay.
Because it's interesting. As a child, I couldn't understand why I was so different that they had to say those things to me. I couldn't see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have no context.
Yeah, I couldn't see it. I didn't know.
You don't even know to be offended. You're just
exactly.
I don't understand what's going on here. Is it me? Did I do something? What did I say? Right? You're just baffled by the whole scenario.
Exactly. I was innocent and
Sure.
innocently baffled by it.
Yeah, right. So it's hard to you're hurt, but you don't know why, right? It's like,
I knew why I was hurt because of exactly what they were saying. They were they were being
just
very
being
obvious.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So
mean.
The words they chose, I knew that they hated me and they disliked my presence, things like that. I knew that.
Right. But you didn't know why.
Exactly. I didn't know why, why me, why not that?
Sure.
That's what I mean.
What did I do?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's weird.
I just couldn't see it. But of course, very soon enough, I caught on.
Right. And then you figure it out and you're like, okay, huh. But what do you do about it? I mean,
I wish I looked like them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally. I did. I mean, this was early. This is before I was 10. I already started wishing I looked like them. Oh, why can't I have blonde hair? Or at least I want to have brown hair.
Yeah.
For your listeners, I'm Asian.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can picture someone from Hong Kong, right?
One would hope.
Yeah. So I wanted blue eyes and light brown hair. I was like, why can't I have that? I want to have lighter skin, everything. So I wished it.
Right.
I wish. Yeah. So it was like, okay, I want to be accepted. I don't want to be treated like this. If that's what it takes, then I wish I had that. So I went through this whole identity crisis as a child.
Right.
Wanting it.
And you're still learning English too, right?
I'm still learning English. So can you imagine this? Small town, my classroom size is less than 20 people.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm the only
You've got nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide. It's so obvious because I've got the black hair.
Right.
Yeah. I've got the black hair. And back then my skin was darker than it is now, back then, because I had a lot of sun exposure, but I was darker visibly. So it was so visible. And my teachers would come in and pull me out of class because I had to learn English one-on-one with a tutor. And so the whole class saw me leave.
Right.
And they knew what was going on. Oh, it's because this little girl from China, or they don't know about Hong Kong, right? Sure. This little Chinese girl doesn't speak English. So that made it even worse. It just piled onto it.
Yikes. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, you went through it really young, I know.
I did.
You did.
So you can imagine my mother was my best friend.
Yeah. And your brother, you're kind of like family versus the world kind of scenario.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got the phone calls even at the restaurant. We got the phone calls. Some people from the town were not tolerant of us.
Right. Just because you're different.
Yeah, just because we're different. And they questioned the food. They questioned the certain ingredients, and it was just inappropriate.
Of course. Wow.
Yeah. So we got all of that in that time. We were the brunt of all of it.
Yeah. That's some serious trauma right there.
Yeah, it was. And so my mom was my best friend.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to struggle through this childhood trauma. So is this the trauma that we were talking about in the beginning? Oh no. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So there's better trauma. I'm sorry.
Better
we're laughing
trauma.
About better trauma.
No, because it's like a soap opera.
Yeah, of course.
So the more dramatic it gets more interesting, right?
Sure. There's deeper pain. So let's hear about it.
Yeah, the nuances of the pain as well.
Yes, right. So what was the real trauma?
The real trauma happened when I was 9. Right. And when I was 9, on my birthday, my mom decided to take me out, drive me to the next city. And we were on the highway that night coming home, and we got into a car accident, head-on collision, really high speeds, at least 65 miles an hour.
Wow.
It was a high speed head-on collision. It was around a curve. I remember the street where it happened too. My mom was driving, head-on collision. And it was a very serious crash.
Yeah.
Very serious. My whole family was in there, involved in it.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was serious because my brother and I, we didn't have our seatbelts on.
Yeesh.
There was less education back then. My parents weren't so educated. So they thought, oh, it's past our bedtime. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the back seats, we're going to put them down, bring them down, and create a bed in the hatchback. My parents drove. So they created a bed for us. So we lied down on the bed and they put blankets on there. So that's how we were in the car when it crashed.
Yikes.
Yeah, we weren't sitting and we weren't strapped in.
Okay.
Yeah, so there it was, car accident, head-on collision. We went flying, and all of our heavy groceries with the 4-liter jars of soy sauce and everything like that, made of glass tin, it came toppling down on us inside the car. It was a hatchback too, so there's no separation between the trunk and us.
Right,
and
you were in the trunk, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happened, and it was just serious. And eventually we were removed from the car. They needed the jaws of life to remove us and to remove my mother. They took us out hospital, and my mom passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, she passed away.
And you were 9.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she passed away, and it was on my birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on my birthday. And so she had a severe brain trauma, in a coma, and she didn't make it. I don't know the details of it either. And I didn't find out right away that she passed away. It was some weeks afterwards that I found out, many weeks afterwards. No one told me.
Wow. Yeah. And you were 9, so they don't know. They don't know what to do either. So
yeah, I suppose.
Right. They don't know what to do either. And she was in a coma for a while, right? So there was probably a decision to say, is she coming back? That sort of thing was going on.
It's just interesting. I discovered later on because I found her grave.
Mm-hmm.
This is another story, but I found her grave, and on the tombstone, she wasn't in a coma for very long. She was in a coma for 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the date of her death was recorded, 2 days after my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she wasn't in a coma.
So you found that out later?
When I was an adult already.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I was shocked. I had no idea. I was shocked.
Right. Wow.
That was when I knew the date of her death. I thought that she died when I was told of her death.
Sure. Which was weeks later.
It was weeks and weeks later. Yeah.
Mm.
So I was shocked. I just couldn't believe it. But that was my own discovery as an adult.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ouch. So that's some serious trauma for a 9-year-old right there.
It was. I myself was, so my mom was the most severely injured. I was second.
Okay. Wow. All right. So how long was your recovery?
I was bedridden. See, what happened was essentially I broke my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And I was
above the fourth cervical vertebrae.
That's right. Above the fourth cervical.
Yikes. So you're lucky to be alive.
I'm lucky to be alive.
And moving.
And moving, exactly.
Okay, I get it. Right.
I saw the x-ray and the MRIs. I was so close to becoming a quadriplegic. I remember the conversation with the physician who came in.
Wow.
And he was like, you're so lucky. Just fraction of a millimeter.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So did you ever lose any sort of sensation or not?
Oh, I did. In the beginning,
Okay.
I did. Somehow
So your nerves were young enough to recover, essentially, and a little bit more malleable, and not. Had you been an adult or even a little bit older, you probably wouldn't have been as lucky. I bet.
Probably.
Right.
But also the spinal cord was not injured.
That's what I meant. Right. It was bruised, maybe, or maybe just impinged a little. That's why you lost a little bit of feeling for a while, but then
definitely.
It regenerated, kind of thing. It wasn't. If it's severed, forget it.
Yeah. So the vertebrae was fractured
Crushed,
too. There was a bit of fracture around there.
Right.
I shattered both of my wrists as well.
Yeah.
So there was a cast. I had the halo brace, and I was bedridden for months.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, with the halo brace, and there's like weights attached to it to make sure that it goes in properly, it goes in straight. So there was that weight.
Yikes.
And then when when they have to keep checking the x-ray, how is it healing? And finally, when they told me, okay, you can now get up, it's time to get up now, they put on a vest to attach my halo brace. It was crazy. I had to actually learn to walk for the first time.
You had to relearn how to walk.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just crazy because it's atrophy.
Yeah.
Everything's atrophy. And then when my casts were removed, I couldn't move my arms either. It was an experience. And I remember it really well because I'm older now and I remember the details of it, of what happened and how it felt like,
9-year-old trauma, you don't forget.
You don't forget that.
No. And that's in your development zone. So it sort of gets locked into your, wait a minute, you're a neuro person. You know about myelinated circuits and things like that. So Ike's, you got some serious childhood trauma locked in.
Yeah. And you can see what seeded my interest in neuroscience.
Right. Yeah.
It was my mom's brain trauma and also my own injuries. And back then, asking why I couldn't do anything about it. I realized that back then there's so little we know about the brain and the central nervous system. And even now there's so many unknowns and so many injuries that can't be reversed and diseases that don't have cures. That's what seeded my interest in neuroscience.
Yeah. And your survival. Why did I survive? Wow. That you went through some serious trauma.
It was, and it didn't end there.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
It didn't. Yeah, it totally didn't end there. So backtrack a little bit. I said that my mom was my best friend back then.
Of course.
I didn't mention my father because I didn't know him, which is strange because we lived in the same house. My parents shared a bedroom, which is normal. They shared a bedroom, but I didn't have any conversations with my father. There was no interaction from him. He was just this figure in the house that lives with us. And I know I'm supposed to call him the Chinese word for father. I called him that, but I didn't know why.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It was a bizarre thing, but when you're born into that, you think it's normal.
That's just the thing. Yeah, that's the normal. That's your normal. But then once you get some perspective, you're like,
exactly.
Not everybody's like that. Okay.
So I thought that everybody's father's like that. You just don't talk to them. They don't interact with you. And the only interaction I had with him was when he came to punish me.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah. And he was harsh. He was a harsh punisher. He had the tree branch.
Ooh, yikes. Yes,
and he would hit us. I know he would hit us until there were bruises and lacerations. And
wow.
It was tough. And he would yell at, it was scary. I was afraid of him.
Yeah.
But I thought it was normal. I thought, everyone's father is like that. So that's how we went through our childhood, like that, with that type of relationship.
Oof. So
now fast forward to the hospital, my mom passed away. She's nowhere in sight. I didn't know she passed away, but she's nowhere in sight. But my father's there.
Mm.
So
this stranger that you don't really know.
Yeah.
But the guy that you do know, you don't really like. You're just fearful of this person.
I was scared of him.
Yes.
I was scared of him. I didn't hate him.
Right.
And I wasn't angry at him. I was just so scared of him. Right. So here he was at the hospital and I didn't talk to him. He didn't talk to me. It was just really weird. And it went on like that for weeks, but I was in serious injury. I was trying to recover. And all of a sudden my father became our caregiver.
Right.
So there was a lot of awkwardness around.
This is the beginning of Act 2 in the movie of your life, right?
It is.
Right. Yeah. Okay, because I'm seeing this very awkward, silent scene where everybody's looking awkward and you're looking scared and dad's looking pissed off and kind of like going,
Yeah, he was not the one that told us that our mom passed away.
No, I could imagine he didn't. That wasn't his role. Right.
He did not. He was not the one that told us. So that's why it was just a shock. So here I was needing to get to know him. Right. And not knowing how to have a conversation. I didn't know whether I was supposed to talk to him or not. It was weird. Am I supposed to say something to him?
Sure.
Am I, I just didn't know. And so fast forward.
Yeah. And you're like, now what? Right. It's like, okay, mom's not around and I'm stuck with this guy. Who basically hits me with a stick.
And interesting, now in retrospect, I look back, so my father's was probably thinking the same thing. Now what?
Right. Now what do I do? And now I got to deal with these kids.
Exactly. And I don't know how
the person making the money at the restaurant is gone.
Exactly. So he was probably thinking exactly the same thing. And his action showed it because he had no idea where he wanted to raise us. And he left us with other people so often, and he disappeared, and it was bizarre. And then so he did this multiple times, and one day he reappeared with another woman, and that was our new stepmother. And
Okay.
she was a woman from China, and so he brought her over and said that this is your new stepmother. We are to be married tomorrow, and she's going to come live with us, help out in the restaurant. And I decided I'm going to reopen the restaurant, and that's how it happened. So then there she was. Don't know this woman, had to get to know her, and they had a couple of kids together as well. And then so that was act 2, and then act 3 of my life came when when my father decided that he was feeling overwhelmed with responsibilities. So one day he came into my room and he said, Grace, I just have my hands tied. I have the girls now. So he had daughters. He had 2 other daughters. He goes, I have the girls now. I have the baby coming along. So she was pregnant with the next one.
Right.
I have a baby coming along. I have a young daughter right now. I'm overwhelmed. You understand, I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the capacity to care for you anymore.
Wow.
And yeah,
and you're how old now?
10.
Wow.
10. I was
10 year later.
It was very fast. It happened very fast.
Wow.
So I was 10 going on 11 kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so I left the home and I was completely alone. It was like the weight of the world on my shoulders. I couldn't see. I didn't feel like I had any chance of a future at all.
Wow.
No chance. And I was
Did you go live with family, or did you, who did you live with?
So many different people, including classmates. I found a way to make excuses to stay on their couch, and this person, that person. And I was probably a burden. I was probably a lot.
You're like talking about like some serious childhood trauma now. I mean, you went through some physical childhood trauma. Now you've got the separation anxiety kind of like, and there's a psychological thing for that, like that.
I didn't go through separation anxiety.
Okay.
I went through.
There was grief, right?
It's interesting. I didn't feel the grief. The one emotion that I felt that overtook all of that was that I felt a huge, strong sense of unworthiness.
Right. Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. I felt like nobody
wants me.
Yeah. Nobody loves me because I'm not worthy. Because I'm not worthy of being loved.
Right.
I'm not worthy. And that's why I'm the one that got kicked out. I'm the one that got abandoned. That's why, is because I'm not worthy of being loved. And that was the emotion I felt. There was no separation anxiety. There was none of, I didn't
really want to be there anyway with him, right? Not really, because you didn't really have a bond with him.
I didn't, but it's also not that I didn't want to be there. I just didn't have a sense of belonging.
Right. Okay.
And even with relatives, so there were other relatives in the proximity as well. I didn't feel a sense of belonging from them either.
Right.
I just felt like there was no welcoming.
Just feeling really unloved.
Yeah, they didn't want me there. I was a burden. I was the weird child that
you keep hearing it would be so much better if you weren't here.
I heard it in different ways, shapes, and form. Exactly.
Right. It would be so much better if you weren't here.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Because there was just so much wrong with me. There was so much awkwardness about me that, Grace, you just go, get out of my view and fix yourself. This is what's wrong with you. Go fix yourself.
Wow.
And I heard that type of messaging consistently almost every day. Yeah, almost every day. Wow. So then that happened, and now I'm on my own, and that's why it was just it just put the cherry on top to my feeling of unworthiness, and it took the biggest hit on my self-esteem.
Yeah. Wow. Holy cow. So where did you end? So you're kind of like being tossed around from age 11 until when?
Tossed around,
right?
It didn't end. It did not end.
No, I know. It didn't end. Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. But my father still required me to take my mother's place at that restaurant.
What?
So I started working there when I was 11.
Okay.
I didn't live there. I didn't always stay there. And there were times where I just ran away and I just found a place to spend the night somewhere on the street.
Oh, geez.
So anywhere I could find. I didn't care anymore. I gave up
He just
on life.
literally just kicked you out without a plan. Just get out.
He didn't use the words get out.
Okay.
He
I just can't have
that,
you around anymore.
I can't handle it. You know, I have so much responsibility. I'm not capable.
Right.
I don't have the ability.
I can't have you hanging around anymore.
I don't have the ability anymore.
Okay.
You know, like that.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He never said get out. But I knew that that's it. This is the end of my rope. I'm responsible for the rest of my life, myself.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, that was the message.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no more support, no more financial support. Because basically he told me I can't support you financially.
So, okay. So now you're working in the family restaurant. You're seeing these people every day. But then when work's over, you've got to go find a place to crash.
I found a place to crash, or I ran away, and I just pointlessly, aimlessly feeling that, you know, I could just die now and no one would know and no one would care.
Yikes.
So I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was feeling that I don't have a future. Who cares anyway? I don't have a future. So who cares?
Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me.
So I don't even care. You know, that's how I was feeling. But I still went and I did my duties. I worked at the restaurant. I was 11. He didn't pay me. There was no salary, but I did everything. I did all the tasks. You know, it started with washing and then cashier and then went to full on waitressing.
Okay. Wow.
I was 11. I could barely reach over the tables, but I was still serving the customers at the restaurant.
Yeah. Geez.
I had to stand on a stool to reach the cash register.
Wow.
I was working, but I was there working and the customers saw it and they were very intrigued by me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here I was feeling that I have no purpose in life. I have no future, but I learned something at that age. I learned something. And this was how the young entrepreneur came out.
Okay.
Although I wasn't paid a salary, I noticed that people give me tips.
Aha.
Right. And so sometimes my whole day salary was $1 or $2. So I was making $1 a day, $2 a day. And those were my wages. And I would save them. I had this piggy bank that was shaped like a loon.
A loony bank.
Exactly. That's what it was.
Okay.
In Canada, because that's what it was. It was a black wooden loon. It was shaped like a loon. And I would put my coins in there. And those were my wages.
Wow.
Those were my wages. So that I saved up. And so my whole existence, my whole purpose in life was to collect those coins from the table after my customers left.
Okay.
And I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just did it. And it gave me some purpose to exist.
Okay.
So I collected these coins. And I was just like a robot doing it on default mode.
Yeah. You're on autopilot.
I had no other purpose in my life and no one wanted me. No one cared about me. So then that's what I did until one day, this is like act 4 now.
Okay. It might be chapter 2. I don't know.
One day these clients came in to eat. They were an older couple, astute couple. I'd never seen them before. And they observed that I needed a place to stay. They noticed something. Don't know what, but they noticed it. And after their meal, they turned to me and said, Grace, if you need a place to stay, why don't you come live with us? Just like that. And so they settled their bill. I picked up my backpack. Everything I owned was in that little backpack. And I followed them home. And this was dangerous because they were strangers, but I was that desperate. So I followed them home that day. And they led me, several blocks away. I was just walking with them. They didn't drive. So I followed them home. And there was this house in the middle of a block that was yellow wooden house, very humble looking, 2 stories, and a very squishy basement. 2 stories.
Squishy?
But it was a very, it was one of those really unfinished basements.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the size of a closet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a very squishy basement. Yeah. So there's the house and they brought me in the house, led me up this narrow staircase that was carpeted. And on the right-hand side, there was this huge bedroom, yellow walls, slanted ceiling, and huge furniture from like British cherry wood furniture from the 1960s.
Okay.
And they turned to me and they go, welcome home. Grace, you can stay here for as long as you need. That was it. That was what they told me. I was shocked. And normally one would be grateful, right? Normally one would be grateful. One would feel taken care of. I didn't feel any of those things. What I felt in that moment was I didn't trust them.
Right. Why would you? Yeah.
Yeah. And
you have no trust muscles at this point.
Yeah. So in that moment, all I was feeling was like, oh, phew, I don't have to worry about where I'm staying tonight.
Right. I've got a crash pad that seems relatively safe for now. That's about as big, right? Okay.
Exactly. It was the biggest bed I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah.
In my whole life, I've never seen a bed that big. Not in Hong Kong, not in Vancouver, not in the prairies. I've never seen a bed that big. So I was just like, oh, phew, I okay, that's taken care of. Okay, good. I don't have to worry about tonight. That's all I felt.
Okay.
But that's all. I didn't have the capacity to feel grateful or thankful, or you know what I mean?
I do. And I get
it. I was saying to myself, okay, now I have this place for tonight, but I don't know how much longer I'll have it. So I got to
don't get too happy. Don't get too comfy.
Exactly. Right. That's what I was feeling. But my
kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop.
I was waiting.
Yes.
But that couple allowed me that space. They didn't intrude. They tried to open up and talk to me.
Okay.
But I kept them at an arm's length.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. I didn't trust them. I kept them at an arm's length. I didn't open up. I didn't build a relationship with them.
You're waiting for the guy to go find a stick.
Yeah. I'd rather not be hurt, you know.
Right. Right.
And I'd rather, and if they were strangers and they hurt me, it wouldn't hurt so much.
Now, I forgot to ask, are these Chinese people or are they Canadian people?
They're Canadian. They're Caucasian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then 2 years of not trusting them went by.
2 years. Okay. From 11, 12, 13.
No, they found me when I was 14.
Oh, they found you when you were 14. My goodness. So from 11 to 14, you were in
it was tumultuous. Yes. Survival mode.
Kind of. Wow.
Survival mode for 3 years.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 years, actually. Survival mode for 4 years.
Yeah. 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 14,
it's almost like you were a street person. The street kid.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 16. Now I'm 16.
Okay. So at 14, you get this crash pad. Wow. Yeah. You're growing up in a very rapid, traumatic way. Okay. Wow. Okay. Continue.
So now I'm 16.
All right.
That one morning I got up to the sound of the husbands, so they were husband and wife, right? Uh-huh. I woke up to the sound of the husband's voice outside my window, that yellow bedroom. There was one window that overlooked their backyard. I heard his voice. He's got one of those voices that carries really far.
Okay.
So I heard him, and the walls were very thin because that house was probably built 100 years ago. So it was really thin. Yeah. And I heard his voice. And as I listened, I looked out the window and I saw him talking to one of the neighbors. You know, and they were just standing in the backyard chatting to each other. And I finally heard his voice. And he sounded so sincere, talking to that neighbor, so sincere and so real that was when I realized, oh my goodness, this couple, they're the real deal. They meant what they said and they're here to stay. That was the moment I realized. And I was squatting at that window and had my face pressed up against the window. And all of a sudden, tears of gratitude started rolling down my face. Because I realized that they meant what they said. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
And I was watching him talk to the neighbor, and I was like, he is the most sincere person I've ever met.
Wow.
And that was when I finally realized that I don't need to be in survival mode anymore.
Oof.
And I let it go.
Yeah.
Finally, I was no longer in survival mode. And that freed up my mental capacity to think about other things.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Maslow really applied here.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it really does sometimes. Yeah.
So still squatting by the window.
Right.
I decided for myself, I don't want to give up on life anymore. I don't want to give up anymore. I want a future. I want to have a future. But in order for me to have it, I need to be independent. I cannot depend on anyone anymore in my future.
Right.
I need to be independent, and I want things for my life. I want to have a better future. I want to own a home someday.
Right. Wow.
In that moment, I had these conversations, and the only way I knew how to get it was from pre-programming by society. And that was go to school, get good grades, and then apply so you can get a better job, a higher paying job. That was the only way I knew how. And so I told myself in that moment that my education was going to be my ticket to freedom.
Wow. Right. Okay.
I told myself that.
Now I know where the drive comes from.
Yeah. It was like, I have to do this. If I don't do it,
it's
I'm going to die.
It's a survival thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
I don't have options here. This is what I'm all in. You're literally pot committed at 16.
I'm pot committed. Yeah. Okay. It was do or die.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's why you become the future PhD candidate.
That's how I became the future PhD candidate.
Okay. Wow. That's a great story.
And it's interesting. I didn't know why I was doing it. I ascended the academic ladder, right? I have 3 degrees. So I ascended the ladder.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ascended it, bachelor's, master's, PhD from different universities.
Okay.
Yeah. I ascended the ladder. I didn't know why I was doing it. I thought that's just what one does because you got to go to school.
Right.
And get a good grade. That was my framework. So I didn't think about
what you were doing.
Exactly.
Most people don't. It's just like you just follow the path. You can think, if I keep working hard, I'm going to get to the thing and then everything will be okay. Right.
Yeah. So if you think about it, the whole thing is actually a propaganda. They tell you, right? The society tells you this. Your teachers tell you that because they've been told by someone else. And it just keeps propagating this propaganda that the only way to get a good job or a high paying job is if you go to school. Then you go to school. But the academic system, the formal education system, doesn't teach you how to answer the more important questions in life.
No, it does not.
It also doesn't teach you how to plan your career, how to navigate a career path. It doesn't teach you these things. It's excellent at giving you the credentials.
Correct.
It's excellent at
it's validating things about you is essentially what it is.
Yeah, and it gives you the subject matter knowledge, the historical knowledge, all that technical knowledge. Perfect. But then how do you take that knowledge it's basically data points that you've collected. It doesn't teach you. They don't teach you how to organize it and package that knowledge into usable wisdom.
Right. No.
And I wasn't capable of thinking that way. So I just went through the motions, ascended the academic ladder, and it was just like,
and then you got to the end. You got to another now what? And you had a PhD in neuroscience.
I did, yeah.
Okay. So that's how you become a career counselor? Is that what?
See, it's interesting. Yeah. I started noticing the gap in the education system
as you were in it. Yeah.
Not during my master's, during my PhD.
Okay. Yeah,
that's when I saw it. And I dreamed of settling in Vancouver. So I purposely applied to do my PhD in Vancouver.
Right. Vancouver's awesome, by the way.
Yeah. I purposely went there so I would end up back in Vancouver and then eventually settle here. And that's why I'm still here. And so I was doing my PhD, not even halfway through it. That's when I had another awakening moment. And I like to call those moments where I had a moment of agency. Right.
Sure.
I
call those veers. That's why we call it vroom.
I know. I love that
too. Okay, cool. A moment of agency. That's perfect.
Yeah. During my PhD.
Everything gets really, really clear.
It got clear. And I saw so many students getting burned by exactly that model, that framework of education and job.
Right.
So during my PhD, I took it upon myself to educate myself and others about navigating a career. About answering the more important questions in life. And how do you go about answering these questions? I stayed a couple of steps ahead of people. So I held seminars. I did workshops. I partnered with people and we did these big seminars. And I booked rooms in the university. And every time I had a seminar or a workshop, the room was filled with students.
Wow. Of course.
That were interested. Yeah. They were interested.
Because you're filling a need. You saw a need that you had. Right?
Exactly.
And that's the impetus of the beginning of every business starts with seeing a need. Yeah.
What's missing?
And what's missing, and it's personal to you. It's missing for you. And then you figure out a way to fill the gap. Of course, other people are going to need that because, there's universals. Right. Yeah.
So I had to be a product of the product though. So it's not enough that I just identify what's missing.
No, you have to find a solution, right?
Yes,
and make it work for you.
Yes, my life has to reflect the success that other people want.
Yeah. You have to execute the plan, as they say. I think my favorite thing as far as like businesses go, I can't remember who said this, but he said ideas are like everybody has ideas. Ideas are simple. It's easy to have an idea. It's next to impossible to implement and execute said idea. Right? So when you come up with, I have an idea, and then you do all the work to make it a reality, that's a business.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so much nuances that go into it.
Of course. Yeah, of course. When it's simplified, right? When you do the thing. Yeah. Right.
But of course, during my PhD, when I was running these workshops and I was peer coaching, mentoring, I didn't realize, little did I know, that this was my foray into career revisionist.
Right. Well, yeah.
I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah.
You're just saying, there's something missing here. For me. That I'm going to have to fix for me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to fill that gap. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, I didn't regret the path that I took. I didn't regret going through 10 years of college, 3 university degrees, and all that traveling.
No.
I didn't regret it because I learned how to package that knowledge into wisdom, into invaluable wisdom, so that I can help my clients.
Right.
I learned how to do that, and I developed a methodology. So I definitely don't regret it. But in the moment, I kind of realized, and you have to overcome what's called the sunken cost fallacy.
Right.
Right. I had to overcome that because the career track.
You're like,
of a
my
PhD,
God, I've spent all this time becoming a PhD, and now I don't want to do this.
And I don't want to become a professor.
Right. Right. And I don't want to go be a brain surgeon or something.
Well, that's a different career track. That's MD.
Okay. Gotcha. You weren't going to do that anyway. So a neuroscientist with a PhD that you had was your career path would have been teacher. Professor.
It would have been professor. Exactly. That is the definition of the epitome of success with a PhD, is if you become a full tenured professor at an academic institution.
Right.
And that's the expectation.
That just kind of sounded like not fun to you.
It was not, but I held on to it and I played the game. I did the publications and I did everything that would bring me up to that path. And then again, that moment of agency where I realized I don't want that.
I have a show recommendation for you. Now we have to wrap up because we're getting close to the end. But before we do that, so I just watched this show on Netflix. Do you have Netflix? I hope you have Netflix. If you don't, get it. or at least, maybe you could YouTube this or something. But there's this moment in this show called Mind Killer, where this scientist, I guess she's published. She's a doctor. She's a PhD. She's in a university setting. And she starts consulting with the FBI, right? Mm-hmm. And then the FBI offer her a full-time position as a consultant, right? And then she's got this, like, she's not tenured yet, and she's sitting with her turns out to be her lover / mentor, right? And they're having this sort of like completely academic little conversation in a bar, right, over wine, right?
Okay.
And she just gets up and walks out. She's like, nope, don't want to do this the rest of my life. It was just, that was her moment of clarity, right? She just like, wow, really? Is this what I want to be? No. And it just, as you were saying your story, I think you had one of those moments.
I did. Minus the walking out on someone.
It was walking out on 4 people, I think, 3 or 4 people, just without a word, just walked away. It was a great scene, but I don't think those actually happen in real life.
Because most people are afraid to walk away from the path they've already been taking.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Because in a sense, it feels like a failure. It feels like I didn't use my degree the way it was intended. And then it takes courage to, quote unquote, walk away from that. But you're actually not walking away from it.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
It's just, you're right. It's the sunk cost fallacy thing.
It is.
Yeah. Well, Grace, this has been a blast. I could talk to you forever, but we're already over an hour. We're both just really chatty, you know.
Yes, we are.
But this is amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. So as we wrap up, let's talk a little bit more about how people can get in touch with you at careerrevisionist.com.
Yes, absolutely. So that is the website. And on that website, I have my links there as well.
Right.
Social links as well. People love to connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's great.
Super.
And I have links there. So Dr. Grace Lee is my LinkedIn profile. So reach out to me there too.
Awesome. And you've got a podcast, right? And you've got YouTube channel. So check those out.
Yes. So the podcast is the same name, Career Revisionist Podcast. And the YouTube channel is Dr. Grace Lee.
This has been a blast. I think you're definitely, we could do another show because, you know, we didn't really cover the whole of the life.
Yeah, we need to do Act 2.
We do something, Act 2, Chapter 2, something. Whatever we want to label it, we should do this again. Because it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, and you have a good day.
My pleasure. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.